I just bought this abandoned airplane for $40,000, and that sounds like a lot, but it's the same as this new car, that boat, and this weird thing I found on Facebook Marketplace. When we pulled it out of the hangar, we were able to get it running. However, I had to hold this choke in the whole time to keep it running, and that's when I discovered a few things. The biggest issue are these carburetors. The bottom bowl here was leaking pretty bad. And that means, unfortunately, we're gonna need to rebuild those carburetors. Now, this is an airplane, so everything's expensive, but a full rebuild kit for both carburetors with every part you need. Now, that's expensive, 329 bucks, but that'll do both carburetors, and it's every single part, all the jets, all the gaskets, everything to do it, which for airplane world is dirt cheap. I don't know if this engine is actually any good, because an overhaul on this engine is still kind of airplane world. We're talking about $10,000 to $15,000. Nikes. The first thing we got to do is take the spark plugs out. I wonder how expensive these spark plugs are. They're NGKs, so I'm hoping they're pretty cheap. Oh, heck yes. $4.85. Dude, this airplane is getting better and better by the day. In my research, I discovered that this is a kit build airplane, which I know and now you know. Just the kit was $64,500. So I'm already under that price, and that doesn't include the engine, the propeller, and any avionics and radios, which can easily double that price. So this is looking like a pretty good deal. I also have no idea how long the oil has been in here because they didn't put a date on the oil filter, but the oil filter did have quite a bit of dust on it, so I'm assuming that's really old. We got another oil, and it takes different oil. It takes motorcycle engine oil because there's gearboxes and motorcycle stuff happening in there and not regular airplane stuff. Yeah, that looks all right. The first test we have to do is a differential compression test. Once this is done, then we have to do this test. According to the book, we're connecting this gauge to it, and it needs to go to this 150, above 130, below 174, and that's what the book says is good. We're gonna crank it over a few turns with the starter. There's no spark plugs in it, so this thing shouldn't start. And we won't turn the fuel on or anything, so it better not start because there's no anything to it. But I'm just hoping that this stays out of the way because this is gonna be flinging around here, going that way. All right, clear prop. Oh, wow, that is fantastic. Wow, oh my gosh. You have no idea how relieved I am to see that number. The rest of the cylinders also tested near perfect. Oh man, look at that. That's brand new engine territory, baby. Yes! That's always the scariest thing about these is the engine, because that makes or break a deal. So we're talking 65,000 bucks just for the kit, not including the engine, propeller, and stuff like that. 40 grand is what we're into it for. Let's look around this thing and see what other parts we need to order, and then get some parts coming and start fixing this thing up so we can fly it. But I did just realize something. Yeah, I'm not licensed to fly this thing, so I have to go get some training to be able to even fly it for the first time. Yeah, this tire, it's toast. Wow, yeah, it's got dry rot everywhere around it. Let's see how much a tire is for one of these things. I love this airplane so much. Dave Ramsey is completely wrong.
Whatever you put into a boat, a camper, or an RV, you need to be able to set that amount of money in the middle of the floor and set fire to it, and it'd be okay. Because that's basically what you're doing.
So I've got a subscription challenge for us. Let's see if we can't beat Dave Ramsey and get more subscribers than he has, and show him that airplanes are awesome. And yes, miracles of miracles, you can actually afford one. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button so we can beat Dave Ramsey and show him that airplanes are a great investment. This tire, $14.50. That is just awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so fantastic. Okay, And how much is a tube? The tube is $7.95. I don't know if I've ever came across airplane parts that were that cheap. That makes my day so much. While I was looking to see what tools I needed for this, look what I found on the back side of this that is awesome. That is a grease fitting to grease the bearing. Just such a simple thing, because the airplane world, you have to take everything apart. You got to, clean them and then repack them, which we're going to do here anyways. But that, to know that it has a grease fitting on it, I guess it makes sense because it's in water, and every time you put it in water, you probably should grease it to purge it out to make sure there's no water in there. Now, fingers crossed. The engine turned out really well. Let's hope that this thing turns out just as well.
Getting the rear tire off of the airplane was simple, but getting the tire off of the rim required special tools.
Why? What sort of witchcraft is this?
One eternity later.
An airplane wheel is unique in that it is bolted together, unlike a car wheel, which is one piece and the tire slips over it. An airplane, you disassemble the wheel and the tire goes in between like a sandwich. Oh yeah, and it has a tube like a bicycle tire.
Golly, look at that. We're gonna have to clean that off.
Before I can reuse these parts, they have to be cleaned.
We'll set it full hot for 20 minutes. Go eat lunch. Hopefully that'll be nice and clean when we come back.
Once they've had a chance to cook and clean, we now begin the reassembly process. It starts off by doing a final scrubbing of any remaining corrosion so everything can go back together nice and neat.
Oh, that's much nicer.
Believe it or not, we use baby powder so the tire doesn't stick to the tube.
Lavender and chamomile. Apparently.
Once I wrestle the tube inside the tire and get it where I like it, next comes assembly, being careful not to pinch the tube between the two wheel halves and pop it. Don't ask me how I know that.
I'm actually going to wait to air this up until I get it on there. That way, if there is a catastrophic failure, the bearings might help keep it together. So when I air it here, it doesn't just go kaboom. I don't think it would, but I'm going to wait until we get it on there.
Finally, we put fresh grease in these wheel bearings, put the wheel on the airplane, add some air, fill it completely full of grease so that there's no room for any water when we decide to land on a lake or ocean.
Tail wheel is done.
Next, let's tackle the carburetors so we can get this engine running smoothly, because the last thing you want in an airplane is a rough running engine.
So I went on the internet and I discovered this. Oh, this is funny. The cucumber. No, not that actually. Mandatory service bulletin, and it says identifies an instruction which, if not followed, may cause serious injury or even fatal death. Specifically about the floats on the carburetor, and if the carburetor is leaking and running rough at idle, which is exactly what this is. And this bulletin came out after that thing has been sitting. So now I've discovered that that airplane is actually an airplane, and it has a lot of airplane-y type stuff in it, which are service bulletins and other weird special things. And you have to have special tools to do that. And apparently, life is better by the gram. We got our scale out. Oh, that was supposed to be cleaned off there. So these are the little floats, and they go into the carburetor bowl, and when the gas goes up, they float and then turn off the fuel going into the carburetor. So apparently there's a whole bunch of old ones, and you're supposed to weigh them, and they're supposed to weigh less than 7 grams combined. So if we put that one on there, that's 3 exactly, 3.0. Put that one on there, 3.0. However, there's a catch, They're supposed to be this R, and this one has a B on it. So if we scroll down here, that's the one I have. It's a different part number, and it has a different service bulletin that is 912065. So then if we follow this rabbit trail, it goes to this one. Inspection of float buoyancy. For these, warning will cause death if you don't do this. I got it, okay. But my engine serial number is not part of this engine serial number, and the carburetor number I'll have to double check, but I don't think it's part of this either. So technically it doesn't fit in the service bulletin. And these weigh what they're supposed to weigh. So I think that carburetor and these floats are good and I don't need to buy new ones. But just to be safe, I'm gonna make some calls to some Rotax people, because I am now outside of what I know for sure and what I can get a solid, clear answer on. So I'll be back.
Yeah, as long as they're less than 3.5 grams each, you're good to go.
Now that we know we're good to go, we can rebuild this carburetor. It gets disassembled and all of the old gaskets, all of the old seals get replaced. Bang, there you have it. One rebuilt carburetor. Now we put this one back on and then take the other one off and do the same thing to that one. And then the real trick comes with making them synced and working together exactly the way they work together. And yep, you guessed it, we need a special tool for that, which I don't have. So we're gonna have to find that as well. Before we could start this engine up, we had to change the oil. This oil reservoir definitely needed cleaned. That's better. Once we put a new oil filter on and check our special magnetic plug, it's time to put brand new oil in it.
I'm learning all kinds of things about Rotax engines. This is basically motorcycle oil. It's a half synthetic blend motorcycle oil, because the gearbox, there's clutches inside this thing, just like similar to a motorcycle. I have not had to work on carburetors like this since I was, gosh, probably 16 years old, because after that was all just cars. I would buy broken cars, fix them. Well, started with motorcycles and four-wheelers, buy broken four-wheelers and motorcycles and fix them and then trade them for another thing that kind of sort of worked, and then trade that off, and then trade it and trade it and trade it, until eventually now I'm doing it with airplanes, which I actually never thought I would be doing. And this is kind of cool. Slightly more dangerous if you make a mistake with this, but teaches you an awful lot. We're going to attempt to burp the engine, which I have still never actually heard it burp like I've seen online. Turn this propeller over, it said 50 times. So basically, I'm going to keep turning it, and we'll turn the light on, the gauge on, until we get some oil pressure as well. And I'll just do it by hand. They said do not use the starter because it spins too fast and might hurt something on the inside of the engine. I think that's how this works. All right, let's start spinning.
Okay, it's starting to move a tiny bit.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, praise the Lord. All right, keep looking. Yeah, there you go. I can feel it now.
Yeah, it's about 20.
All right, keep going.
There's 30.
Is it going any higher than 30?
Yeah, it's almost at 60.
Is it really? Oh yeah, I can feel the...
It stopped right below 60.
I am loving how this project is going so well. Probably the easiest one I've ever done. Next, we're going to switch this fuel filter out. Super easy to do. The only thing left to do is to drain and refill the coolant system, get all the air out of it, then we can pull it outside and start it up. What could possibly go wrong?
Oh no. You gotta be kidding. Well, I was right. It is a bleeder port. And I went to take this piece of hose off and it broke the plastic bleeder port right out of the radiator. Oh, you gotta be kidding. Well, while I go and lick my wounds and try to make a plan for that. Dave Ramsey says that motorhomes and boats, and I would say airplanes, are a giant waste of money and we should just burn it all or something to that effect. Well, Dave, I know you're right, but I think you're wrong and we're going to prove you wrong. Subscribe so we can beat Dave Ramsey and show him that airplanes are a great use of financial resources. As I now wait to find out how much that radiator is going to cost. I then spend the rest of the day tearing the airplane apart to get the radiator out. Once the airplane was out, I would simply get the part number off of it and order a new one. But there was no part number on this radiator, so I would look it up in the manual. There was also no radiator in the manual, and the dealer was not available, so I spent the next 2 days researching and I found this. Follow me on this journey. There's no part number that I can find. That is a date code, and there are no other part numbers anywhere on this radiator. Experimental aircraft often share parts with the automotive, motorcycle, and marine industry. These outlets are much smaller than what would be in the automotive space, but they're too big for the motorcycle space, and the radiator is too long to be in a motorcycle, and it just doesn't look like it would fit in the marine world. So that tells me that it must have come from the automotive world. With these only being 1¼ inches or 32 millimeters, that tells me it specifically came from a 4-cylinder car. The other thing you'll notice is there's nowhere to mount an air conditioning condenser, so that tells me that there was no air conditioning. Another tall tale sign, there's no inlets on either side for a transmission cooler that was used in most every car that was an automatic transmission. So that tells me this is from a manual transmission 4-cylinder car that was of European origin, which, if I'm honest with you, there's not a lot of those. So that tells me it was an older one from, pre-1995 roughly, because that's when everybody changed to automatic cars. Then this is plastic right here, so that tells me that it's later, not in the 60s or 70s, it was probably somewhere in the mid 80s. Now I looked, and this is really kind of not well made. Also, there's a lot of universal mounts on this with the tabs out here and here and here. So this tells me this was used on a lot of different cars from the same make and model. So that tells me it was not a high quality car like a BMW, Mercedes, or Audi, which leaves us with Volkswagen. So my prediction, if we type in, say, a 1983 Volkswagen Rabbit without air conditioning, manual transmission, I bet this radiator is going to be really close to that. 1983 Volkswagen Rabbit radiator. 7784. What do we got? Here we go. Volkswagen Rabbit picture. Boys, that looks pretty darn close. AutoZone happened to have this in stock. Let's find out if it is going to work or not. Holy cow, that looks... Wow, that's pretty close, isn't it? Oh no! Look, it's just a little bit too long. And the way it mounts right there and there is just a little bit different. Oh, so close. What? Look at that one. 79 to 82 Volkswagen Rabbit. I really hope this is finally the correct radiator. Okay, come on. Please be the right one. Looking promising. Oh, that looks really good. That is looking really good. Oh, come on. Okay, those are the same. Little deals, those look the same size. It even has the plug on this side right here where that goes, and this one wasn't even used, so we can leave the plug in the other one. And probably one of the weirdest things ever, it came off of a 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit. You can't make this stuff up. I just noticed my first thing that I'm gonna have to do differently. These are brass threaded, and the old ones are plastic. The old plastic ones used a screw like that. That's not gonna work for this, so now I need to find the right bolt for that to change it. Everything else looks exactly the same, so I'm really, really hoping that's the only difference. The old screw goes in the pocket. This radiator gets wrapped back up. Radiator goes back in the box. The moment of truth, we're gonna find out if this 1982 Volkswagen Rabbit radiator will fit on this 2006 Flying Canoe.
Only 2 more trips to the hardware store.
Don't act like you've never done this.
Now that we got the radiator back on, we need to fill it up again. To make sure we get all of the air out of the system, we first must level the airplane.
That is full. My part is done. The Rotax expert will be here any minute. He'll tell me if I bought a boat anchor or a good engine for this airplane. This is Justin. He is the Rotax expert that is coming to see whether or not I bought a boat anchor or just a boat with the flying boat. And he showed up in style. Look at that thing. That is pretty sweet. All right, well, good luck. And don't be shy.
No
Just
worries.
let me know, good or bad, what this is. Should I
So the
tell
option
him?
is I can
You-
walk
'cause
in
you
the
don't
door
know.
and then turn back around.
That's an option. Because I didn't tell you. All I told him was it was an Aventura with a 912 and it has the 2 carburetors, and I just want him to look over everything, make sure it's good to go, and to tune the carburetors to make sure this engine is dialed in. Did I tell you how long it's been sitting or any of the backstory on this?
Nope. Not at
I'm
all.
gonna wait to tell you until after you inspect that.
Justin double-checked all of my work. He said it was good enough to take outside and start up.
What's that big red thing there sticking out of the exhaust that says remove before flight?
Exactly. But he told me you have to take this out for it to burp. Because I guess this might be,
Ah, because any exhaust is coming out if that's plugged up.
yeah.
We wouldn't have heard the burp. Good catch. You want to try burping it again?
Yeah, let's try burping it again. Are you ready?
I was starting to think the burp sound was just a myth.
Hey, we heard the burp! That does sound like a Taco Bell.
It does.
Now it's ready to pull outside and start.
Okay, here we go. Can I get a clear prep?
I was surprised how well it started. However, I still had to hold the choke to keep it running.
Man, that thing, I'm shaking to death.
Justin had his work cut out for him. He spent the next several hours adjusting those carburetors until it sounded like this.
Well, after all his hard work, let's see if it paid off.
Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Well, if you like this and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe and give this video a like, and let's continue the journey to get this back in the air. But you know, there's still one big thing about this airplane.
What's that?
Still don't know if it floats. Or flies, for that matter. Turn around. Turn around.
yes,
Check them out.
indeed.
Hendricksfield Aviation Maintenance. The guy, he knows the Rotax. He was
so
able to
much.
get this abandoned, decrepit old thing singing like an angel.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
sir.
much. Happy to help.
Appreciate that. Whoops. Neat. All right, you get on that side. Did you get that on film? No, you didn't? That's good. We went to push it back and the tail wheel went to turn and then it lifted up and then went boom and folded in all at the same time.
Good news.
Good news is we have a Harbor Freight skate to save
We
the
have
day.
a temporary tail wheel.
Oh, Lord, that's heavy.
All right, sit her on down.
That's a lot easier to roll than them stupid tail wheels anyway. What the heck? It can't be that bad, right? You can get this shirt on SaveThe310.com.